Welcome to another edition of the Live Well and Fully podcast. Through this podcast, we help women remember that they matter too. We spark new insights on changes they might desire for in their own lives so they can step forward confidently and turn their dreams into reality.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Live Well and Fully. I'm Barbara Decker, and I'm on the East Coast of the United States in Pennsylvania. And I'm here today with Maryann Udel. Maryann, where are you hanging out today?
I am in Los Angeles, California.
And it's not very warm there either, right?
No, surprisingly. It's sunny, but it's nippy. I see frosty grass out there.
Son of a gun.
Yeah.
So to those of you listening, Maryann faced grief at the age of 24 when her husband was killed in an automobile accident. And now she is a coach to guide people to a life beyond their grief. Mm-hmm. And the title of our interview today is How to Make Peace with the Past and Embrace Your Future. So I'm going to put a timer on the screen, and then we'll start and see if we can't do 7 questions in 7 minutes.
Okay.
All right. Question 1, Maryann. How do you help women in the second half of their life create an extraordinary life?
Well, through a number of different ways. I have group programs and retreats, both in person and virtual, that help identify what someone truly wants to do and then help create a plan for how to actually fulfill on that and embrace it.
That's great.
Yeah.
So what is the actual problem you solve for people?
Well, I think that for the most part, when people try to set a plan for what's next, they sometimes are hanging on to things from the past that they may not even be aware of. There's an unconscious heaviness that's holding them back. And unless they're able to identify that and release it, that will continue to prevent them from actually moving forward. Yes, go ahead.
So in the work that they do with you, you help them identify it and then make the choice to release it?
Yes, I actually take them through a process to identify it and feel it and then figure out how to live with it.
Because that's great.
It can't go away.
That's great. Yeah, I agree. You probably can't just say, go away.
Right. And I think that we're going to get into the next question. So why don't we go to that and I can elaborate a little bit more.
Okay. Number 3, Maryann, what are the typical symptoms that people experience when they have this problem?
Well, there is an unsettledness, a discontent, sort of a feeling something's just not right. I know that I'm destined to do more, and I can't quite identify what it is. And there was one woman who came to me who eventually became a client. She said, I think I need to work with you. I'm crying all the time. And it turned out that her father had died when she was 13, and she had to be brave for her mother. She had to keep a stiff upper lip. She had to help take care of her little brother, and she wasn't allowed to show her feelings or even go to the funeral. And over 50 years later, those tears were coming out. So it was the unresolved grief that needed to come out.
Right. That's very wise.
Yeah. So that's another symptom that people might be experiencing. Am I crying all the time? Yes, I think I need to get some help.
Yeah. And I don't want to divert from what we're talking about too much, but I would like to say to those of you listening that if you have a loved one in addiction or with a mental illness and they are alive, you still can have grief over that. And you may need permission to allow yourself to grieve the things that you have lost in that situation.
Yeah, and that's a great point to make, Barbara, because quite often there's a misunderstanding about grief in general. I think that people think it's only associated with death. And there's so many other situations that bring up those feelings, that there's, as you mentioned, there could be an illness of any sort that either you're experiencing or a loved one's experiencing, or a divorce or a breakup or a move across the country or a pet passing, that there's a whole host of reasons to grieve. And it's any sort of change that you experience in your life, or grieving what you will not have.
I agree. Or retirement, voluntary or forced.
And I think that the experience that we as a global community went through during COVID was, there was a lot of discussion about the communal grief that everyone was experiencing because it was a complete change of lifestyle. And I think that helped to elevate the discussion. But I think now people have lost touch with that a bit because we're back into our busyness.
Yeah, I agree. You're 100% right. Thank you. 4, what are the common mistakes people make when they're trying to solve this problem themselves?
Well, I think that the first thing is not understanding grief. And second, if I just ignore my feelings, then they'll go away, or I'll just push them down. I'll just stay busy. And that just kicks the can down the road. It doesn't really avoid the problem. It just allows it to remain inside, because eventually, like that one client who started uncontrollably crying after, 50 years after the fact, that eventually it's like a pressure cooker. If you don't release the steam, it will explode at some point.
Yep, I agree. Thank you. Stiff upper lip is not the solution.
No, or ignoring it. I feel fine. I feel fine. Not really telling yourself the truth. I'm fine.
Yep. Number 5, what is one valuable free resource of yours that you can direct people to for help with this problem, Maryann?
Well, I think just going to my website, I have a couple of things that people can do that are complimentary. They can register for a monthly coffee break that I have. It's virtual, it's on Zoom, so it's a confidential space where people can open up about how it is they're feeling.
Okay.
And the other thing is just having a complimentary one-on-one conversation with me.
Okay.
It's on my website.
Great. And to those of you listening, I will put the link to Maryann's website in the show notes below this podcast. Number 6, what is one tip a listener can use right now that will help them to solve this problem?
Well, I think just getting real that grief doesn't go away, that it's something that you learn how to live with, that the only way that you can get through it is to go through it. So feel your feelings.
That makes good sense. And finally, number 7, what should I have asked you, Maryann, that I didn't? And what is the answer to that thing?
Well, I think there's a couple of things, but generally speaking, I don't think that the reason that grief is a problem is that we don't talk about it enough. I think that there isn't enough education. I think that there's a great misunderstanding that there's a checklist or a timeline that people have to follow, and none of that is true. Everyone goes through grief in their own way and in their own time, and you learn how to live with it.
Thank you. I heard a guest speaker we had at one point say something that stuck with me, and that is happiness and grief can coexist.
Oh, yes. Yes. I think that people think that they have to wait until they're done with the grieving to feel happy. But unless you're able to find that happy while you're grieving, you'll never get beyond it.
Yeah. I've also heard people feel guilty for having happy moments while they're grieving. And I think that is false guilt as well. Do you agree?
Oh, yes. And I think that even if you go to a funeral wake, and you'll see people sobbing in a corner, but then there'll be a group laughing hysterically over a memory from the person who died.
Yeah.
So it's all a release. And unless you're able to find the joy, you'll never be able to move beyond.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think your answers will help lots and lots of people. And so that's a wrap. And we really appreciate you spending time here with us today. And to everyone listening, I hope you find a pocket of joy today because you are so worth it. Bye for now, and let's talk soon.
Bye.
If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to be notified when new episodes are released. Then visit www.livewellandfully.com/workshop to experience the Love Another Way framework firsthand.